Hi there, Randy Green here, part 3 of my suspicion of the offer from the character Enki. There are other things, again, as I said in the first podcast, I haven't listened through and through the interview with Elena, and I can't because the code is so dissimilar to mine that it would be it would alter my code systems, and then I would get in contact with something that I know I shouldn't poke my nose into. But I want to use this as the last piece of things that I have observed over the years, and the different people that get in contact with different groups of aliens. And I have had my own share and dealt with that in the manner that I know best, and that is from a warrior standpoint. There are certain things, I just looked a little bit into the interview, and I just got snippets there. One of them was that she claims that Enki told her that he has always or have always had a weakness or a high love for humanity. And that is what humanity? Is it then offering the Adam Cadman 10-dimensional scavenger slave race blueprint? Does he have this affection for humans as slaves? Just putting in the question, that's probably not what he meant, and that's not what she interpreted of it, but that's how I would interpret what he's saying, because it is important to understand. This is what I want to put in this podcast. These races that are trying to get in and get access to human energy fields by giving them information are always using what is stored in the human energy field. They are always using what we have of knowledge and what we have of ideas and belief systems, and what we have seen in movies and so forth, and which is stored subconsciously in our energy fields. And she's also talking to someone on board a craft. Michael Sala refers to him as Thor Han. And you know what? This is just where I go in Thor, as in kind of, we've seen the Avengers, right? And Han Solo from the Star Wars. Nobody is called that name. You could say, well, Thor alludes to the Niburian division of it, but Han Solo from the Star Wars, from the Falcon, I don't think that they have these names. It just feels so manipulative to me, giving that double beautiful Chris Hemsworth Nordic looking thing, and then add in Han Solo a little bit, kind of this cocky, not really following the rules kind of captain, traveling the whole galaxy and saving the important princess, what have you, something like that. And then there is this whole father card that Enki's playing on, loving humanity as the loving, caring father, the creator of humanity kind of thing. And then also playing on, you would get longevity, you would get out of that enslavement, and you would be upgraded, and you will live as long as Methuselah, which I wouldn't like to live as long as Methuselah. I wouldn't like to live as long as Noah or any of these Jewish forefathers, because I'm not a Jew, and they are not the origin of humanity. So could we just be clear that humans do not originate from the Jewish lineages of the Yavar brood? And we also had the first brew of the Elohim that were kind of what we call the angels. And then we had the second brew, which are humans. I talk a little bit about that in a podcast on my whole Academy website, completing the progression work, where I made 4 podcasts where I actually talk about the understanding of the different groups of humans. And Adam is the second portion, and a downsized version. And I have my little discussion of that one, which of course not completely correct. We can interpret whatever we want out of the Hebrew Testament or Hebrew Bible. Sorry about that. The Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. We can interpret whatever we want out of that according to our belief systems and what we want to believe. Because these texts are made up. They are not true. These are not the origin of the human civilization, that all humans on this planet stem from Adam and Eve, or that they were engineered to live as long as the first lineages of the Jewish people that were part of the Hebrew Bible. Could we please get beyond that one? There are so many different civilizations on this planet. Why does Enki not come and say that he is part of the original engineering of the Aboriginals, or the original engineering of the Native Americans, of the Hopis? Why Adam? Why Mesopotamia? Why Anunnaki? Why even come in that and trying to create a God figure, playing on that God in heaven, which is not his position. That was Anu. So again, let us be really, really, as I know that it's only a snippet of the interview with Alex Collier, and Michael Sala has cut it out and put it in there, where Alex is kind of laughing, saying, yeah, if I get longevity, I'm all in. Oh no, that is exactly the problem. Because then what is being traded off for eternal life? You see, the humanoids, they are trying to get eternal life, but they will never get it with technology and holographic overlay and holographic transfer of energy systems, and by using others to create their DNA. Because I think that's the plan. He wants access so he can continue. And I'm pretty sure he probably is a general in some of the Orion factions that used to be under Inanna, because I also know that most of the factions that collaborated with Inanna are no longer the hot group. They have been degraded. They have been degraded even within, because they aligned themselves with the scavengers, and nobody wants to work with the scavengers. Everybody wants to work with the Dracos. Nobody wants to work with the scavengers. So this is also, and I get the clear signature that this guy is connected to the scavengers, and we are having a problem with the scavengers right now. So this is just putting that one in, and then it said the holographic medical transfer. Again, playing on what we want. We have this fear of death. We have this fear of illness. We have these issues on our planet right now that goes in that direction, which were actually instigated by the Dark Galactic Core and the third cycle energy reactivation. So you see, if you begin to see that whole context, then you can see right through the scam that's being played there. And I'm also playing a little bit with the idea, okay, if that Enki character had approached Michael Sala directly, why does he choose a female? I'm not pointing fingers at Elena or anything. I'm just saying that perhaps there is an agenda going on there as well. Because if he had approached a male, Michael Sala, for instance, would he have then been able to play the father card and the love of humanity? Or is that a deliberate manipulation because females, whether we have children or not, we are kind of focused on taking care of others somehow, somewhere, not all females, but generally speaking, it's part of the default programming of females on this planet. Or it could be kind of, she got all overwhelmed if he had the dazzling technology, which we know both Greys and the Dracos had. Dazzle, feel overwhelmed. That's why some females are all about when they encounter reptilians, they're all, wow, they are so whatever, because they're completely dazzled. And that's the defense mechanism. It's actually a colonizing mechanism. It is a piece of technology they have instead of, especially when they go into civilizations that want to colonize and use the females for breeders or incubators or whatever. Dazzling is one of the ways that they get access. And then females kind of all pause in the air because that is the most male of all male energy. And who doesn't long for this perfect male? Oh yeah, he looks reptilian, by the way, but the way he makes me feel, right? So that's part of that one as well. And that's also invasion technology. So, and we've heard that. I'm just referring to, again, I've listened to a lot of researchers and a lot of people within the UFO community and all the things that they have put out there on the different expos. There's been a lot of good people, done a lot of good work, but we are trying to navigate in an environment where we are using our naivety and our human unknowingly, whatever, our unknowns of these races, because the way these races operate, even though we are accustomed to different forms of perversion and manipulation and trickery and what have you on this planet, and we do know there are people out there, there are definitely part of sections that we simply do not understand because they are within a level of extreme perversion and extreme measures of achieving what they want. But what we are not accustomed to is this targeted usage of our most secret subconscious information systems pulled up to the surface to engineer a tale, a story, a narrative from where they can get access. And if they get one human and they get access to one human in that human energy system, especially if it's a female, because there is some old Atlantean dynamics that kicks in there with the priestesses and the priests. If he can get that access and she begins to promote this, then whatever she will get in contact with, that's probably why I got that warning signal. Whatever she will come in contact with, she will then breed the code system because she has been imbued with his code system. So we have male, female, and she will breed that code system and align it with the one that's listening to it, if the one that is listening to it has some kind of affinity for that code system. So that's how that one's going to go. And that's why I think that Enki character did not choose a male, because you can't do the male-male breeding. And we're not just talking breeding of life forms, because breeding here and seeding here means to seed information systems that allows for code configuration, which then can be spawned into other people by either the holographic transfer or by shedding the code system off when people are listening to that female, because she has been imbued with his code system, which then ignites a specific spiral of energy, which ignites a specific segment within the human population and their code systems. So this is also some of the things that we are up against when we're dealing with these races. Communication with these races is not just an interaction of verbal noise or of sounds that are being shared. It is a telepathic contact. It is a contact that goes from energy system to energy system. It's done by overshadowing. That means imprinting of code systems. It is done by insertion of symbols, and it's done by and upheld by technology. And it is done to get access to this system, because if you don't belong here, you need an access point to be able to operate here. And the best and quickest way is to use trusting, naive, well-meaning, well-intended humans, giving them the story they want to hear because they're good people. So they tailor the story so no harm is done, and then they have access. And then she's talking to everybody, writing the book and doing what she's doing. And by that, people are reading it. And by that, the codes can jump. And if it were only targeted for the group that were under the Anana project, then that would be good and fine. And that could very well be the case. But if that is the case, then still, what the next set I want to put in here is that everything in me tells me that that blueprint that he's offering is first and foremost sold under false pretense. It's not the 12-stranded. Can't be. It must be the 10-stranded. And it must be under Inanna's project. And if that's the case and that gets activated, then you have the counterpart to some of the, what we call the dark configuration of the Pleiadian genetics in females that already have been activated. And quite a lot of that activation was actually instigated by males that came in contact with certain females, but certain females already had it. They were born in and they were carrying that configuration already. But there were also males having that one, and they could turn other females to become that configuration if they had that specific type of Pleiadian genetics that were similar to the ones that were colonized and taken over during the Orion Wars. This is a high-stake game, and there is nothing here that is simple and easy. And I think that's probably one of the most difficult things in the awakening process, is to understand that we cannot afford to be gullible. We cannot afford to be naive. We need to know what we're dealing with here. And we can't just say, just because we're communicating with someone, then it's just like talking to another human, because you will discover as you activate more and more, and we go more and more into density 1 configuration of our planetary system, you will discover that you do have an effect on others. We have an influential sphere. Our energy system vibrates certain codes, vibrate and radiate certain types of energy. That affects our surroundings. That affects other humans. And as we grow more and more to be who we actually are, that means that our physical form will begin to align with our energy system configuration, whatever that means and whatever that entails. Perhaps not visibly, but definitely energetically, so that those who have eyes to see with, they can see what is in that physical form. Then we will understand that energy and consciousness are very powerful tools to get access to systems, to be used for accretion, to be used for colonization, to be used to get access as carriers, as doorways, as back doors. And that's the hard lesson that the enhanced humans, or the ones that were part of the military projects, learned the hard way, because they didn't know better. And quite a lot of them that were part of the early projects that got the first infusions are now stuck in one of the 7 layers on our planet, because they got genetics that were part of these older projects that ended down there because they failed completely due to an extreme amount of contamination. Because I want to put in here that Arno didn't know what he was doing, but his version of a female, Inanna, did definitely not know what she was doing, and she messed up more than what was good. And quite a lot of the enormously difficult things we're dealing with from these 7 layers beneath our feet are because of her experimentation. And she didn't get rid of it. She stored it there. She should have done what her father did, her progenitor did, and that was to put it into the white blue flames where they would cease to exist and evaporate. But she didn't, because she couldn't let go of that one. She was clinging so hard to get power, and that led to her judgment, and that led to her body's in stasis as well, including whatever has been working with her. So we could have another scenario going on here, that Enki figure, that general, is actually here because he wants to create that army so that he can activate the males and females, so they can become the new Adam and Eve, so they can begin to activate that great work that will activate the racial network and great work that Inanna created, so that he can get to her and get her out of stasis. That could also be the plot. We never know what the plot is. We never know what they want to achieve here, because she is stored here. She is, unfortunately, very, very deep down. So that's a horror of dimension, because if she comes to life, then you have the Queen of the Night back up and running. And that's not a good thing. I'm just painting out the worst case scenario here. So for me to be able to deal with these things, as I kind of almost end up saying, if an offer is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. And we cannot take out any of these races and their technologies and what they have to offer, because that's part of the problem already. And quite a lot of the ones that have got here as part of the enslavement program under the colonizing factions, they already in their own system open up the doors for races they shouldn't have opened up the doors for. And that's why they're here enslaved. So they are just repeating their lack of knowledge, because they already did it, but they've forgotten it, and they're still naive, and they haven't learned their lesson. They haven't learned not to trust something that looks too shiny. So that's also part of it. So I'm just kind of thinking the shining ones, and I just thought, I wonder what that was, and then my mind just spun off. Oh, was that the Elohim? No, because that's the supreme powers if you do the correct translation, not the shining ones. So that must be the Els, a different version of that one. If they are coming back to, or proposedly are coming back, which faction are then pretending to be them? Because quite a lot of these ancient races that used to be here are not coming back. I do know that there are certain of the Niburians that will come back, and I know that because before Adad left, he came by and he said, "I'll return later on in his new shiny Niburian vessel." So I know they will come back at some point. But the question is, for what purpose? For how long a period of time? To gain what? To catch what they have left behind on the older layers of our planet as it recirculates and reconfigures into the density one. These are just the questions. But one thing I do know for certainty, they do not come back for humanity. Because as far as I have seen, and if we look into our history, and if we look into what's been done to us, and if we look into where we are now, what's going on our planet, then we have not asked the right questions yet. As in kind of, how did we get here? How did it go so bad that we are now encapsulated in this physical form? How does enormously advanced civilizations get to the point where they end up like this? Somewhere down the line, something must have happened. Something must have fucked all of this up, right? And we can only get to the point if we take full responsibility, as Alice Collier also says. And that's part of my take on things as well. We need to take complete responsibility for our own progression work, our own awakening process, and our own education, and our ability to deal with these enormously hardcore political issues in a fucked up system that is not just on this planet, it's in the entire quadrant, it's in the entire universal sector. That at least the Colontics have taught us as well. It goes all the way up. There are falling races in all of the dimensions. And if we believe that we will only encounter the benevolent ones because we are benevolent, then we have not learned the sciences of energetic and genetic affinity. We have not learned the sciences of what's hidden in our energy system, because we are not yet able to see so deep into our energy system. We cannot afford being so naive that we think that only the benevolent will take contact. We should instead ask whoever is taking contact, what does that entity want? Typically males. What do they want? Because humanoids only want males, right? The male energy, the male consciousness. So they're only presenting themselves as males. There are a few female humanoids, but they are often of an older, typically of the Niburian origin. They have still kept their female version, and the Pleiadians are also females, but most of the other races are presented as males or androgen, right? So just putting it that way. So whatever comes our way, why should it be benevolent? Why not be critical from the beginning and say kind of, why is your name Thor Han? You're from the Galactic Federation. Thor was a god. Why do we have that name? Ask these questions as in kind of That doesn't ring true to me. If you want to talk to me, if you want to be around me, present yourself as who you actually are. And not this holographic overlay that will soothe my sensitive nerves. Be who you are, present who you are, tell me what you're doing here, what is your purpose here, and what do you want to achieve here? Are you just another one of the ones that are going to go in and harvest and whatever? And I know there are different groups that are presented here, and there are groups here that are not harvesting, but they also have an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. So what is the agenda? And if there really were people out there or humans or humanoids or whatever that truly wanted to assist humanity, they are not going to do it by technology. They're not going to do it by saving our sorry asses. Because as Collier also says, nobody outside want us in their realities as we are now. Because when you are in a higher density, and that means in more subtle energy that is built upon holographic principles where everything is interconnected and interact according to genetics, energetic and genetic affinity. Someone like us that would come into that one, that would go into that one artificially or what have you. First and foremost, we wouldn't last long because we wouldn't know how to sustain ourselves. We would not be able to mingle with the energies. So we would get the energies from our surroundings. We're accustomed to eating and all sorts of weird stuff that is not happening in the other worlds, and including breeding and pooping and peeing and all this processing of matter material that our body is accustomed to right now. This body will not survive anywhere else than in the outer domain. Most of these races are from the middle domain. They can take on an android body when they operate here. They can take on a semi-organic body when they work here. But mostly when they contact us telepathically, it's in a hologram. They don't need to take on a body. They can be in their own physicality, whatever that means, in the middle domain. And there they have a tangible body because then in their environment, it is tangible. But for us, it might appear as light, but that does not make them light beings. It just means that they are created out of a different type of energy that for our perception of reality appears to be light beings, but they are not. In their own, they are quite physical. So that's also a learning lesson, that just because they shine does not mean that they're light. So with that understanding, we also know that I'm just circling around the same thing. I think you kind of got the point right here, and I'm quite stern on that one. These are really one of my core teachings when we talk about the other races. And I know if you read the Souls of Humanity, it doesn't come through to the same clearness as I'm saying it here, because in 2014 I began waking up to this political environment, and then I have had all of the experiences with the different negative races here because of my original position and what they were when we had the Pillar Project and what they have become. You see, whatever we've been in contact with will here in the completion cycle resurface again in whatever form it has become, because there's unfinished business, whatever that means. So we will encounter things that we have been in contact with before. And that's what I meant with energetic and genetic affinity, that Elena probably at some point in her history has been in contact with that Enki character. And that's why he can reconnect to her again. And I do get some old Atlantean stuff going on there as well. So this is also what we need to understand, so that whatever comes our way is not coming in randomly. It comes in because we have an affinity for it. And that means in our past, and that means in the early versions of what we have been, and that means the chiasm work. And we should be enormously observant of, as I said in these podcasts on completing the progression work on my website, on the whole Academy website, is that while we were asleep, everything has changed. Nothing is what it was the last time we were conscious, truly conscious. And whatever we perceive through this human vessel will always be distorted by the low frequency energies, and the low mental capacity this physical form has. And unless we upgrade our emotional field to become the vibrational field, where we can vibrate energy and see what's really of information, we vibrate the information system up so that it reveals its content, and we develop our mental field into the true perception field so we can decode that information correctly. Not until we have learned that capacity should we trust anyone, because everybody's got an agenda. I got one too. You can do my classes and the perception logs and you'll know what my agenda is. I have not hidden that whatsoever. I'm here to clean up my mess and what I instigated with the Pillow Project, which were taken off my hands. So now I have to return and clear up something others messed up. So of course I'm a little bit pissed, right? I'm not here to clean up my own mistakes. I'm here to clean up mistakes of others of my lineage. Not a nice job to take on, right? Anyways, things are as they are. So with this little, I think I have covered all the bases here. And this is, if you feel I'm a little bit uptight on that one, that's because in my work that I've been doing this for 10 years, and I know I'm not one of the ones that are out there, and I'm not a prominent one, and I've been at all sorts of expos and what have you, but I have deliberately kind of just stepped a little bit back and said, okay, we need to get the reality to the position where things can see, okay, I can see with my eyes that things are not going well, because 10 years ago, we were still under the old world order programs, right? And then people had to go through that cycle of learning to get the information. And I know quite a lot of the well-intended people, they have no idea that they have been used as promoters. They don't know what that means because they have not got the information. Quite a lot of us that are in this field, we have been manipulated, we have been pulled in, we have been altered over and over again without knowing that we have, because we have not had the ability to see these things, etc., etc. So there is the learning curve in this one is not just, oh yeah, I got alien contact. The learning curve is, why do I have alien contact? Why are they able to access me? What do I hold of genetics since they can access me? What is the purpose of them accessing me? And not just kind of, oh yeah, I'm a special one because I'm being used as a messenger or what have you. Because they will tell you what you want to hear. They will use your weaknesses. They will use your secret desires to get access. And if we can derive anything from any of these creational myths, no matter what culture, they all say that humans were created to be slaves for the gods. So this whole kind of someone coming in and telling you that they will activate the 12-stranded DNA of the human, of the Adamic human, just rings untrue to me. It just does. Unless, of course, you want to recreate the perfect slave vessel from where you can recontinue your harvesting processes. Anyways, you kind of get the point here. So to sum this one up, and in the whole academy classes, I'm not teaching you how to deal with aliens. I actually had some integration classes where I began that work, but I shelved it for a while because I felt it was more important to share the progression work as I remember it and as I see how it can be done without technology. It is an enormous time-consuming work, and it takes the entirety of your life. That's why I call it a high awareness lifestyle. It is going to take the rest of your life, and it's going to be one of the most difficult things you have ever embarked on. And only few are going to do it because they want to do it. Most are doing it because they feel they have to do it. And it's going to be a steep learning curve, and it's going to be iteration after iteration after iteration, do over, trial and error, being wiped and cleared and put back and recircled and put on new timelines and have to start all over. It's going to be one of the most difficult things that those who are going to do the transition have ever embarked on. but exactly because we learn it the hard way, will alter our energy system, will clear us of these humanoid regress genetics, will allow us to be able to work with the original configuration of our reality field, and by that align our energy system to the original networks. And by that, we will be able to get access to the original gate systems out of here, beyond what Anu created. This enclosure. To get out of the enclosure, we need to become the original configuration of our reality field. As long as we are in the human configuration engineered for the enclosure, we will continue to recirculate within the enclosure. And I have not seen any group of races here, whether they were benevolent or not, I have not seen them succeed in teaching humanity to be able to do that little trick. I have not seen any of the negative humanoids have done anything else than just getting access and harvesting and then pull out. So for me, the only solution to this question and this difficult journey is if we learn it ourselves. And when we talk about the benevolent races, for us to be able to get into that system where they exist, we must learn to play by their rules of engagement. We must learn their sciences. We must learn their sciences of reality. And we must learn to be systemically oriented towards the grandness and the wholeness and the unity of the worlds that we want to get into, so that we walk there on our own behalf when we shed off this physical form. When we get out of the enslavement body, we have recreated our original configuration so that we in our light body can walk out of here, because we are definitely not going to do it in this physical form. But we must learn to adapt this physical form to the systemic changes that are happening in our reality field right now. So we must do both, but we are not doing it for longevity. We are doing it so that we can complete and end our history in this system and the failed enclosure project under the different groups of the humanoids in the D13 collective. So we can get back on track with the D14 collective and what we were supposed to do in this universal cycle. And that is the top agenda of what I'm doing and what I'm teaching. But everyone has his own tune. Everyone has his own beak. Everybody sings their own song. So just to sum up this one as in kind of, yeah, I'm critical, but I have also made the solution as I see it. And it's not an easy one. It's the most difficult one you can embark on, but I have made it. The rest is up to you. Thank you.